What's going on, Ramley? Ryan Dyrud here. Before we get to the show, got to tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper, #1 sports app right now, and not just for season-long fantasy. They've got live score updates. They've got a chat you can communicate with other users. Plus, the best part is the daily fantasy feature, which is just like a live pick'em. Just choose 2 to 8 players across any sport. Choose more or less, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit right now, use our promo code. You see it right down there, Rams LAFB, all one word. They're going to give you a match bonus up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free on top of that to play with. If you only want to deposit 10, they'll match you that 10. You're starting at 20. But wait, right now, any new users automatically get a $20 free entry to play with, no deposit required. However, you can stack that bonus, take that 20, go deposit whatever you choose up to 100 with that promo code RAMSLAFB, and they'll match you that. So now you've got extra free money to go play with. So check it out today. Download the Sleeper app. Tell them the guys over at the Rams LAFB sent you. Now, let's get on to the show.
What is up, Los Angeles, and welcome back to your Rams LAFB show. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson, joined by Ryan Dyrud with a special guest from PHNX, Bo Brack, covering the Arizona Cardinals for that great new institution there in the desert. Bo, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. How we doing?
Ryan, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited. I wish I was joining you with a better record, better opponent coming up for you guys on Sunday. But, man, times are tough around the desert as far as the Arizona Cardinals go.
Well, we love that new desert uniform. I don't know if we're the only ones. Not a lot of LA people dig that one, but I thought that was pretty cool. Ryan, how we doing on this Thursday heading into week 14?
Yeah, fantastic. Another beautiful day in LA. Can never complain. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think, Bo. We can just start with that. But I thought the Rivals like desert uniform that Arizona, I actually loved them. I thought because they actually embodied kind of what the desert is, where we have the Rams out here with their midnight blue, which is black. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. What do you think of the Rivals uni? We'll start with that.
I was a big fan of the rivalry jerseys. Just some of the points you made, I completely agree with. I mean, the Cardinals were a transplant, right? Chicago via St. Louis to the desert, and they held on to a lot of the things that, they built the franchise around, but they didn't they haven't really adopted too much of Phoenix, Arizona, and the surrounding cities. And I thought that these kind of encapsulate that, and I really do appreciate it. Some people made fun of them. They look like tortillas. But I think, with the sand, the desert, I thought that they nailed it. I mean, as far as the 8 that they rolled out, I thought the Arizona Cardinals had pretty strong showing.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, not a strong showing from this team so far. Kind of bit by the injury bug early on, losing James Conner. Obviously, Kyler Murray's situation, I guess we can call it. It's not just an injury situation anymore, it seems like.
Right.
Sitting at 3-9, eliminated from the playoffs. I kind of came in thinking this team could go up to 10, maybe 11 wins, maybe bottom out at 7. But what are your thoughts so far on this year? 1-score losses to some really impressive teams, kind of hanging in there. But where we sit right now, just kind of what is this team and who are they? And, obviously the record, the famous, they are what they are, but right. What are your thoughts?
No, there is some sort of truth to, you are what your record is, because you can find missteps all along the way. Like they didn't just, kind of, by bad luck find themselves, 0-7 in score games that are decided by 4 or less points. I mean, they've played a pretty big role in them losing these football games. And it's, that's kind of been the surprising part. As far as I think at the latter of your question, they've lost their identity. There's not a whole lot of like who the Arizona Cardinals are. We knew what they wanted to be. And I held the same kind of feeling as you did, that this is a team coming off an 8-win season that, everybody, when they played the Cardinals in 23 and 24, they saw, a well-coached team, a disciplined team, and a team that was probably playing better than the personnel that they had as far as roster went, and that with just improved players, that would match with good coaching and the results would follow. And they've, severely underperformed this season. I think in every facet, their identity was going to be run the football. And, James Conner going down, it was a hit. And then Trey Benson, your RB2, goes down immediately after that, the next game against Seattle. But before that, the running game was ailing, like against New Orleans, against Carolina. They were, not really kind of moving the football like we'd known them to move the first 2 seasons under Drew Petzing. And I think we've identified that, offensive line coach Clayton Adams, who took the promotion as OC for the Dallas Cowboys, I think he's kind of it's been a big miss there. And I think you've also seen some guys regress who were some journeymen that were pleasant surprises, early in the Cardinals, the new regime's tenure, like the Evan Browns of the world, the Will Hernandez, Jonah Williams. And those guys just not played well at all this season. And they've only had consistent play from probably 2 of their offensive linemen. Paris Johnson Jr., former 6th overall pick, seems to be the only bright spot. So they've had kind of, they lost their identity. Then they went through the identity crisis. And now they're just, you wouldn't even recognize the Cardinals, the amount of time they're throwing the ball 40, 45, 50 times a game, which is not something they want to do, but they're doing it based just on survival.
Yeah, no disrespect, but obviously you don't want to do that with Jacoby Brissett under center as well. That maybe if you have someone else that maybe changes things. But, kind of piggybacking off that, Bo, obviously when you're a 3-win team in December, the coaching hot seat is always going to heat up, no matter how long you've been there, no matter what your records have been in the past. What is the vibe still around Jonathan Gannon? Is there still belief that, hey, this guy's just been hit with the injury bug and things will get turned around, or is this a true kind of hot seat and this may be a coaching carousel situation at the end of the year?
I think depending on who you ask, both of those are true. And it's not me trying to be political. I think like the fan base, they're worn down. They're already tired. I think, as far as Jonathan Gannon's approval rating with the fan base, it's in an all-time low, which is unfortunate. Jonathan Gannon, though, does have the ear. He does have the confidence of ownership. Team owner, president Michael Bidwell, I think infatuated by Jonathan Gannon, loves, what he's doing beyond, as far as the playing field. And it really feels like he's going to get a pass as far as this year's performance, and that the organization, the brain trust, the decision makers are going to say, yeah, too many injuries. You guys couldn't, deploy what you wanted to deploy, but it doesn't mean that it's going to come without having to make some major changes. I think Jonathan Gannon survives this. I think GM Monty Ossenfort survives this and get a 4th year, which, if you look at their record, it's pretty, there's not a lot of precedent for it. It's like Gus Bradley in Jacksonville and a couple guys that go into year 4 and are fired in that season. But Jonathan Gannon looks like he'll get another crack on it, and it'll probably be with another offensive play caller. It seems like Drew Petzing is going to be one of the major changes this offseason. Looks like he'll exit after the next 5 games. And then, I think that there's going to be they're going to explore for a new quarterback. I think that the relationship with Kyler Murray has hit its expiration date, and all parties involved are going to look for a change.
Not to cut you off, Ryan, not to cut you off, but Josh Rosen's out there. I think he's doing finance right now or insurance. So if you want to go down that road again.
We'll kindly pass on Rosen. I think we know there weren't 9 mistakes made ahead of him in the draft. There weren't 4 mistakes or 3 mistakes made ahead of him at the quarterback position. No Rosen. And like the Kyler thing, it's one of those things. I was one of the guys that wanted the Kyler to be the franchise guy. Like I thought his playmaking ability, his skill set was electric. It's just a bummer. Like this thing just kind of hit the point of no return, and looks like he's going to be wearing a different uniform, and that the team will look to kind of trade him. And if they can't do that, I think they will release K1.
What a journey that one is, for sure. I have a secret theory that he actually doesn't like Marvin Harrison Jr. for some reason. I think it might be the height. I don't know, but we can leave it at that. I mean, if
you can make the case he didn't like any of his wide receivers. I mean, the way he was playing through 5 weeks. I mean, Trey McBride was the only guy it seemed like he could get the football to.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Trey McBride, kind of an interesting bright spot on this team for sure. I'm always curious about tight ends against the LA Rams. We just saw the Rams drop a 10-point favorite on the road to an underdog Carolina Panthers. If the Cardinals were able to get this W, how would that manifest itself? I mean, 8.5-point favorites the Rams are heading into the Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
If they were able to get it done, what would have to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to imagine at this point because we've seen so many ways that they haven't gotten it done throughout this season. That like what's going to help them kind of break through that ceiling, that glass ceiling, as far as going from losing, it feels like every week, to winning. I look at last week, and Carolina was able to capitalize on those turnovers. Right, one's a pick six, the other that they're able to turn into points. If I remember correctly, like. The Cardinals turned over Trevor Lawrence just 2 weeks ago in the Jacksonville Jaguars 4 times. They won the turnover battle by 4, and they lost. Teams over the last 25 years were 50-0 when they won the turnover margin by 4 or more. The Cardinals were the first team to lose one of those football games. So it's just like, even if they turn Matthew Stafford, who had an uncharacteristic performance this season last Sunday, if they turn him over, like, it's not even like a lock that they're going to be able to capitalize on that. Like, that's what they're going to have to do. If they force the turnovers, if they get off the field, they're going to have to be able to put points on the scoreboard. They haven't been able to do that, whether it's Kyler Murray, whether it's Jacoby Brissett. They've really struggled to capitalize and consistently put the pressure on opposing teams by putting points up on the scoreboard. I mean, we're just talking, can they get a field goal? Can they get can they find the end zone? They just continue to shoot themselves in the foot and find different ways of doing it in the form of missed field goals, having to punt, turnovers in the red zone. And if they're able to kind of figure it out, that would probably be where I would look. Is capitalizing on the turnovers and being able to not have those offensive lulls where they just go scoreless for 3, 4, 5 possessions.
You've kind of alluded to it throughout this whole conversation, but just to kind of double click on it, usually when a football team, and we'll just stick with offense right now, is struggling, there's usually not one thing. There's a number of things you can point to. But if you kind of had to really hone in, like, is it quarterback play? Is Jacoby Brissett obviously being thrust into the starting role kind of the issue? Is it the offensive line play? Is it the running play? Is it the play calling? So you've kind of mentioned all of it, but if you just said, hey, if this one thing was just better, this could be maybe a 6-win team instead of a 3-win team.
I think just protection for sure. I think the offensive line has been like the regression there has been the story of the season. They took this a huge step back. As we said, the identity was running the football. They can't run the football. And you've got, I think a tier 1 backup who's been thrust into a starting role. And you look at his numbers, Jacoby Brissett, and you're like, wow, Jacoby Brissett's doing this, but it's out of survival. And he's taking shots, and the pressure rate is immense. And the Arizona Cardinals are one-dimensional offensively, and that's what teams have been able to do. And sure, like the score or the box score looks decent, but they're able to kind of hone in on and really kind of pin their ears back. Opposing defenses are, and pressure Jacoby Brissett to where, when it comes to moving the football or being successful in the red zone, they're able to find ways off the football field without surrendering points. And that's kind of been the big issue. So it's been starting up front where, he's getting pressure, interior wise. Left guard Evan Brown is just a shell of himself, and it's been tough, and it's been, a turnstile over at right tackle. So there's pressure from all, angles on Jacoby Brissett, and it's creating just problems in the run game and the pass game, and really making them having one option, and that's just pushing the ball downfield. So there's a lot of third and long situations that, sure, they've done a good job and maybe having a high conversion rate despite that, but it's not an easy way to live.
Yeah, just pop over the defense. This defense held the Rams last year to 13 and 10 points in their 2 games. Obviously, Gannon is a defensive-minded guy. Some really good pieces on the defense. Josh Sweat is banged up, didn't practice yesterday. We'll see what happens with that. But 17 turnovers this season. I think it's 9 interceptions and 8 forced fumbles. So, on defensive side, what's going right, what's going wrong? Are there bright spots? Let's
Yeah.
or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. There are bright spots. I think that the defense, they're outside of the two games, where they were non-competitive against Seattle and the 49ers. This has been a defense that has been strong. There was a couple anomalies where it was like they couldn't come up with the stops in the fourth quarter. But if you looked at them as a whole, like this was a defense that, as far as points against and, as you mentioned, pressure and turnovers, like they're right there in the top half of the league, like right where you needed them to be. And if you got complimentary football, I think that you probably would have seen more wins. But yeah, there is some bright spots. Josh Sweat probably going to be good to go. I'm not too concerned about him missing practice yesterday. We'll see what the injury report has today as far as Sweaty J goes. But I mean, he's going to have his best season statistically of his career. Already matched his career high as far as sacks with 11, and continues to do it all what they ask of their outside linebackers in this defense. Walter Nolan looks like he's not going to play. The talented rookie out of Ole Miss, 16th overall pick, looks like he's still dealing with a knee injury. It doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term issue, but when he's in the lineup, guys, like he's a difference maker. Like I think he's a guy that models his game off of Aaron Donald. Now there's a big gap there, but as far as going to be a poor man's Aaron Donald, I think that's what you can. I think it's realistic to say he could be, just the sample size we've seen from him and how it's transformed how they perform, but he'll be out. But it doesn't mean like they're devoid of talent. Like the ageless Calais Campbell continues to be good in the run and in the passing attack against that. And then you've got some good guys, like corners that can cover. Like Will Johnson looks like he's healthy, the second round pick, and he'll help try to take down the two-headed monster on the outside for the Rams. But I think this is a defense that does enough to force 3 and outs, to force the turnovers, and get off the field to set the offense up for success. So yeah, I think that they're like just probably in the top half of the league as far as defense, and it's not like one of those like, hey, this is a true liability.
Yeah, it feels like there's definitely a bright future there on defense. Kind of how you alluded to, Gannon probably getting another year just because of the bright spots. And I thought they had a really good draft last year, at least for sure, those first 2 picks, like you mentioned, and the bright future there. So, I want to ask you this, what I love about All City, PHNX, kind of similar to what we do here at LAFB is, really the pulse of the fans, right? And really seeing kind of the vibe of the fans. I'm just curious, how do Cardinal fans feel about the Rams? Like, is this a rivalry? I mean, the Rams, let's be honest, have had the Cardinals number. That in the Sean McVay era, it's been pretty dominant by this Rams team. The Cardinals have gotten better. Obviously, they had the playoff matchup a few years ago. But do Cardinal fans, is there like a despise for the Rams, or are they just kind of another team on the calendar?
I mean, since McVay took over, I mean, he's got 1 loss in our building the entire tenure. I mean, that was that. You bring them that 41-10 game. What was it, week 2 last year? It seems light years away, and it's the lone win that they have against Daddy McVay. I think it's just like the Rams have beaten Cardinals fans into like this little brother syndrome. Like they just get picked on. It's a matchup nightmare, no matter who the head coach is. And that's a testament to McVay. Can they find the success? Can they defensively keep that offense down? But like when they were in LA, I feel like late last season, it was just Puka. Like I felt like Cooper Kupp was just a fixture in the run game as far as blocking out there at the wide receiver position, and there just weren't a whole lot of options. The arrival and the impact of Devontae, and I know he didn't practice yesterday. I don't know if that's something he's got maintenance on the hamstring, but having to cover both those guys, it's just nightmare fuel for the Cardinals. And it's come in different forms from 2017 to now, but it's just been a consistent nightmare for Cardinals fans.
Before we get you out of here, I just want to get your take real quick on the draft. I mean, are you looking quarterback? Are you looking that far ahead? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've been eliminated from the postseason last loss. I mean, this is something we've been starting to gear up on. As the losses stack up, you see the Cardinals rise up the draft board, and right now I think they're 8th Hornet like Tankathon. So that might be too far. Is we thought this was going to be, a decent quarterback class, and now it's just kind of it's shrunk a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like Mendoza
Like
at
two
the
guys.
top, probably Devontae Moore, and then you can make the case like this Ty Simpson leave Alabama, and is that somebody like you want to draft in the top 10 potentially? Lenore Sellers, a polarizing prospect out of South Carolina. Does he leave? The one guy in our backyard, Sam Levitt, looks like he's probably going to leave Arizona State, but not go to the draft. So the as far as drafting a quarterback in the top 10, you'd love to say yes, but I just think as far as the demand, it outweighs the supply. And they're going to have to lose a lot more football games, maybe get into the top 5. And even then you might have to trade up with those teams that have already invested in quarterbacks within the last couple drafts.
Yeah, the one benefit you have is Tennessee already has their quarterback, and they're awful. And the Rams own the Falcons draft pick, which the Rams might actually draft a quarterback. You never know. Skinny, let me ask you this real quick before we get out of here. So if let's just say Matthew Stafford, obviously MVP candidate, if the Rams go on, win, and he decides, hey, I'm going to ride off in the sunset, this is my final year.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see Kyler Murray in Los Angeles?
I hope not. Yeah, I don't think McVay would have the patience to deal with that kind of variance and that kind of high, just high ceiling, low floor. I think he would roll with Jimmy Garoppolo before they went for Kyler Murray. But yeah, stranger things have happened for sure. Indeed.
He's always been so complimentary of Kyler, but I feel like that's just, him being a professional at the podium and making sure they don't overlook the Cardinals. But him and Aaron Donald, like they've just wrecked Kyler Murray's game, like outside of like 2 performances, one in 2021 early in that season in the week 2 last year. So I would be skeptical as well. Cardinals fans, like that's the worst of all realities for them is if he does, because it's like McVay's the guy. Him and KOC are like, okay, take this broken quarterback and breathe life back into his career. I just think that we know what Kyler Murray is. I think he's a starting caliber guy, but I think he's probably there's a very I think with the numbers you've seen, I don't think you're going to see him outplay those numbers the rest of the way out.
Yeah. It would be interesting. It'll be an interesting offseason talk. If we know McVay, we know how competitive he is. We know how he sees flashes of players and like, I can get that out of that guy. Like Devontae Adams, right? Career year here in Los Angeles after having a down year last year. So it'd be interesting. Lincoln Riley's right down the road at USC. That was his, there's some dots there they could connect. So I don't know.
How often do they run play action in that offense?
I mean, they used to only run it, but
this year quite a bit. Yeah.
You can't run play action.
There you go. There you go. That's a big problem. So, all right, last question for me, Bo, and then I don't know if Ryan has any more, but just this game specifically, 3-9 versus 9-3 at your building, though. Hey, the Rams love your building. They played the playoff game against the Vikings last year and dominated them there. Do the Cardinals pull off a massive upset? What's your score prediction?
It's tough to get away from tight games because that's seemingly all they've played outside of 2 games which unfortunately were within the division. But we're staring down no Marvin Harrison Jr., no Walter Nolan, a couple of key players out. I think we probably buck the trend as far as these tight losses. I'll probably get somewhere around what the spread is. What is it, 8.5? I think they lose by probably 2 scores.
All right. There you go. Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm going to do, I think they cover. I think, shoot. I don't know. I'm gonna break a trend recently. I'm gonna say that they are gonna the Rams are gonna score 31 points, over 30 points, and I just don't see this offense. With the offensive line, the way it's been playing, getting a lot of points. I'm gonna say 31-14.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that. I never want to throw any shade to the guests team. I hate doing that, but after losing to Carolina, I just think the Rams are going to come out with their hair on fire. I mean, after a down game, kind of a wake up call, I think they come out and just really kind of throw the gauntlet down. And with all the injuries Arizona's dealing with, backup quarterback, I think it'll be tough. So, I think the Rams win fairly easily in this one down the stretch. But Skinny, take us home. Take us down the stretch.
Well, first off, Bo, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, we're talking about this game as well, leading up to it. Friday, full preview show, 4:30 here in Phoenix. So if you want to join in, kind of see what Cardinals fans are talking about, you probably won't hear too much shade thrown your way, just given circumstances. So if you want to hear more insight, yeah, we'll be live on our YouTube page, PHNX Sports, and follow along PHNX_Cardinals across your social.
Excellent. You can follow us at LAFB Network. I am RL Anderson, LAFB on Twitter. Ryan Dyrud, LAFB over on Twitter for the guy on my right. And everything else, LAFBnetwork.com. We're on YouTube. You can find us there. Rams LAFB. Go like and subscribe. We'll be back with Aaron Coscarelli for the Friday practice report, so definitely check that out. Until then, guys, appreciate you and see you next time.